everyone, welcome to Kids Corner. Our theme for tonight is On a Walk. I hope you all had a wonderful Easter weekend. Our story is actually about two people who are walking home from Jerusalem to Emmaus after the very first Easter weekend. And they're discussing everything that's happened from Good Friday through Easter Sunday, the fact that they couldn't believe what had happened, that Jesus had been crucified. And they also couldn't believe that when the women had gone to the tomb, they had found it to be empty. And so they're discussing all of this and what they think it might mean. And someone comes up alongside them and begins to walk with them. And this person begins to ask them what they're discussing and what they think it means. And he starts to open up the scriptures to them while they're walking together. And they realize that they're walking alongside Jesus, but it takes them a bit. They don't realize it until he's nearly gone. And so they're walking and talking, and he's interpreting and telling them all about the scriptures. And it takes them a while to recognize the significance of who it is that they're talking with. So I want to read to you just a little bit of that story. This is after they've been walking for a while and they don't know who he is yet. So this is starting at verse 28 of Luke chapter 24. And it says, "As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, 'Stay with us, because it is nearly evening and the day is almost over.' So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, 'Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?' That same hour, they got up and returned to Jerusalem. They found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, 'The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon.' Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread." There are a lot of times in our lives where Jesus is walking right alongside us in something and we might not even recognize him. It might take us a while to get who he is, or we might not see him at all. We might miss him. And the same can be true for regular, ordinary things that we have around us every day. There are ways that God can speak to us through something like flowers or rocks, or, I was walking around the outside of my house earlier and took some pictures of things like that in my vegetable garden and trees and my fence. And all of these things can remind us of God's word and can remind us of the ways that God is working in our lives if we allow them to, if we open our eyes to where God can be in both the ordinary and the extraordinary things that are in our everyday lives. So I'm going to use some of those as examples, and then I have a challenge for you. My challenge for you is to take a walk around your house or around the outside of your house and try to find 3 things that remind you of God or that tell you a little bit about who God is. And it could be something that reminds you of a Bible story that you know, or something that reminds you of part of God's character, or just something that brings you joy. That can be a reminder of the goodness of God in our lives too. So that's my challenge for you. But first I'll give you some examples. Spring flowers are a great example of a place where we can see God's beauty in creation, and they're also a symbol of new life. Spring is sort of the season of new life. Same thing with gardens. This is my vegetable garden. You might have a vegetable garden out back. We haven't started planting it yet, but soon there will be things growing there. I also found some rocks. We know that after Jesus is resurrected, when he's risen and talking to Peter, he names him as the rock of the church. Then, of course, we have trees growing upward towards the sky, reaching out like we can reach up toward God. Even something like a patio table. We know that Jesus spent a lot of times having meals with other people. And I took a picture of my fence because it reminded me of the boundaries that God gives us. Boundaries are a good thing. They keep us safe. They help us to live our best life. Those are just a few examples of some of the things I saw on my walk today. And now it's your turn. I encourage you to go on a walk and to look for some things that remind you of stories from the Bible or remind you of who God is in your life. And try to see all the places that Jesus is walking alongside you. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and the rest of your week. Bye, guys.